How to implement environmental impact assessments in Nigeria. Taking us through this introduction and through these acronyms, and I have explained each acronym for our understanding. We are going to deal at this time with environmental impact assessment only. So all these other bullet points we are going to deal with when we go deeper in the study. Remember, this is a 2 hours module. So when we go deeper on these points, you will be able to, at the end of this event, understand what stakeholders engagement is, what environmental baseline data gathering is, what statutory fees you are supposed to pay to the Federal Ministry of Environment, because we are taking Nigeria as a case study this time. And then we will discuss your opinions, your cases, your projects, and any other thing you may want us to discuss on this training. My name is Comfort Asokoro Ogaji. I work as a partner at Richflood International, and you can reach us via this email, info@richfloodinternational.com. An environmental impact assessment is actually a systematic process in which before project execution, the negative and positive potential impact of a project is being assessed. The data, the baseline environmental information is gathered, the biophysical and socioeconomic space of the environment is being studied in order to minimize or to reduce the negative impacts that a project may have on an environment or on the people in a community or on their culture, on their economic status, and so on. So the impact assessment process also identifies measures to enhance the positive impact, and of course, like I mentioned earlier, to avoid or reduce the negative impacts. This is the focus of environmental impact assessment. In project conception, 2 scenarios are usually painted. The project can go on in spite of environmental challenges, or the project can be accommodated because of the environmental challenges. Cannot be accommodated because of the project's environmental challenges. This means that a project can be declined, a project can be cancelled, a project can be stepped down after environmental studies are carried out and it is shown that the project is going to pose an adverse, irreversible impact on the people in a mega scale. So when the project has this scenario, then we have to think about how to go about the project with minimal impact or to step down the project entirely. So the project can go on in spite of environmental challenges if they are not major and really consequential, or the project cannot be accommodated and has to be declined. In most cases, you may have alternative project locations. If you have an environmental sensitive area that is being proposed to be the location of the project location, this could be changed after assessment of the environmental challenges. It could be changed to another environment that could accommodate or bear with the impact that will be imposed on the environmental and social components, or the valued environmental components, that's VEX, in the area. Okay. Go further to look at the environmental impact assessment regulatory framework in Nigeria. The regulatory framework of EIA implementation in Nigeria is the Environmental Impact Assessment Act number 86 of 1992. 1992 was when this law was passed and it became operational in Nigeria. Yes, some projects were already in operational before 1992. When it comes to enforcement of environmental impact assessment or imposing penalties on facilities that are existing before 1992, maybe through the regulatory agency NESRIA, that's the National Environmental Standards and Regulation Enforcement Agency, NESRIA, when they are to take an action on a facility, it's a bit mild when the facility have existed before 1992. And so at 1992, the EIA Act number 86 came to being, and the law confers the mandate to implement the EIA Act on the Federal Ministry of Environment. In accordance with this law, it makes it mandatory for proponents of all new development activities to carry out environmental impact assessments on their proposed project. I would like to mention that the Environmental Impact Assessment Act is an omnibus act. It applies to all sectors, multi-sectorial law. It applies to the oil and gas sector, it applies to the manufacturing sector, it applies to the power sector, it applies to the engineering field. If you're building a road, it applies. So it's omnibus, okay? And proposed projects must be subjected to environmental impact assessment before its execution. We have cases at Richfield where proponents approach Richfield and the project is ongoing. This ought not to be. EIA is executed for a project before its commencement, not after its, maybe not before its operation, but before the construction phase. At the planning stage of the project is when environmental impact assessment is being considered and executed. There is also a provision for penalties in case of violation of non-compliance. All enforcement related matters are referred to NESRA for necessary action. As at today that this training is going on, we have NESRA as the regulatory agency authorized by law to carry out the enforcement of these laws, including the EIA Act number 86. So the objective of EIA as stipulated in the Act are as follows: to establish before a decision is taken by any person, any authority, any corporate body or unincorporated body, including the government of the federation, state or local government, intending to undertake or authorize the undertaking or any activity that may likely or to a significant extent affect the environment or have environmental impact on those activities. So this is taken into account. This is establishing that before a decision is making, just like I explained in the introduction, an environmental impact assessment have to be taken, not after the decision about the project is made and the project have commenced, then the whole essence of environmental impact assessment, this particular objective, will have been defeated. So other objectives: to promote the implementation of appropriate policy in all federal lands, states and local government, consistent with all laws and decision-making processes. To encourage the development of procedures for information exchange, notification, and consultation between organizations and persons when proposed activities are likely to have significant environmental effects on boundary or trans-state or the environment of bordering towns and villages. So this creates a platform where stakeholders, this is basically centering on stakeholders exchanging information about the project, and the information is being analyzed to be able to check what activities are going to have significant impact and how it's going to be managed. It can be within a community, it can be within a state, it can be even internationally. So internationally means that the other countries can come together to discuss a particular project, share information about the project, and be able to make a collective decision about the project, aiding the regulatory agency to have a final decision as to whether the project should proceed or not. This is a pictorial representation showing what is done on site. You can see on this side, if you're seeing my cursor, is showing a project that have already commenced. At this stage, you are supposed to audit the environment if the right things were done initially before you undertook this project in the first place, because the biodiversity is lost on this picture to the left down below. The biodiversity is already lost, and here we are trying to capture the suspended particulate matter SPM on the field and other air quality parameters. So the baseline was lost in this case. If you go to the upper left corner, you would see a picture where biodiversity studies have been undertaken, and the fauna, flora, and all that requires to be done, which we are going to be treating at environmental baseline data gathering section. So all of these activities that goes on during environmental impact assessment. Very much for listening to this 10 minutes webinar. We will go on ahead. I have some questions. I can see some questions being posted, but we will go on ahead and take the other modules. Please stay with us and go to our YouTube channel, which is Rich Flood EMV. Rich Flood EMV is our YouTube channel. If you can find it, that would be great. Rich Flood environmental and social specialists. Then you have Rich Flood EMV. On Instagram is also Rich Flood EMV. On Twitter is also Rich Flood EMV. Please follow us so that you can have the regular updates, and click the like button and share and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.
Yes.